Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. We have no reportable action on our closed session, and just noted that Councilman Drake Davis recused himself on item B that was listed on that closed session item. Okay, so we'll go to item number 5. This is special presentations and our announcement. This time slot is for informational presentations, appointments, and or awards to be presented by the city council or to the city council. We're doing an oath of office swearing in ceremony for our new city attorney sitting right here, Mr. Andrew Jared, by City Clerk Hogan. And item B is going to be the Siskiyou Community Food Bank by Laura Leach, Executive Director and Board Directors and Treasurers. Mr. Ledbetter, good evening.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Assistant City Manager Retta Hogan will come down and perform the oath here to Mr. Andrew Jared, our new city attorney.
Thank you. Wanted to recognize our city attorney, Mr. Andrew Jared, and if you can repeat after me on the certificate for the oath of office. So I, Andrew Jared, city attorney.
I, Andrew Jared, city attorney
for the city of Yreka,
for the city of Yreka,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the state of California
the Constitution of the state of California,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the state of California,
the Constitution of the state of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to.
I think you've done this before, but thank you very much.
We gotta go around and shake hands.
Welcome. Thank you. Hopefully you're still around. Thank you.
It's really refreshing. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you and welcome again. We are excited to have you on board here at the City of Yreka. All right, so this will be the Siskiyou County or Siskiyou Community Food Bank, I'm sorry, by Laura Leach, Executive Director and Board of Directors and Treasurer. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. And I am going to give you some information.
I want to just get a little,
about-
I'm sorry, get a little closer to the mic there.
Some information
thank you.
about the food bank, about Yreka, no, Siskiyou Community Food Bank. So to begin, so I have been the executive director for the last 5 years, and I have been part of Siskiyou Community Food Bank since it began in 2013. So a little bit of a history. Our food bank originated from Yreka Community Certified Farmers Market as a project. So at the end of the market, farmers would donate food and we would take it to Madrone Senior Nutrition or to another food bank that was present at that time. And we ended up getting so much that we had to start giving it away ourselves. And so that was the beginning of what we did. So let's see here. In 2013, we received our corporation status as well as our 501c3 nonprofit IRS status. And in 2014, our California Charitable Trust designation. So our mission is to provide healthy food to low-income residents in Siskiyou County, including but not limited to seniors, children, disabled, veterans, homeless, unemployed, underemployed, and victims of disaster. Some demographics. First, a couple of definitions. When I speak of either family or household, that describes a person, one individual, or more. So even one person is just considered a household on their own. And then I'm going to give you statistics that show, or that I'll say unduplicated. That means they were only counted once throughout the whole year, even if they came in and got food every month. We counted them once for the reports I'm going to give you. So starting in 2015, I didn't go all the way back, but I thought I'd give you some background. That year we served 845 unduplicated households, which represented 2,132 family members. We distributed a total of 53,130 pounds of food. In 2016, went up a little bit, 969 unduplicated households, representing 2,496 family members. Total food distributed that year was 60,165. Jumping a few years ahead, so up to 2019, we served 1,387 households representing 2,719 family members and gave away 97,958 pounds of food. Now I'm going to jump to 2022. Due to COVID, the numbers did go down. For a while it increased and then it started going down. The more serious everybody understood what COVID was out and could do. So the numbers went down. We still had 798 families representing 1,245 family members. And we still managed to give away 44,000 pounds of food. So in that same year, I want to break it down to Yreka statistics. So out of those 782 families, 532 live in the Yreka zip code. So it's about 70–75% of who we serve our community right here. So far for this year, we have provided food to 516 households, of which 339 of those live in Yreka. So our demographics track age, gender, ethnicity, race, medical coverage, disabilities, military status, homeless, work status, public benefits, and many more. It's quite a report that I can pull. So how do we do this? So first, we are a 100% volunteer organization. I don't get paid. Nobody gets paid. It's just all volunteer. And I do write grants, so I have secured several grants. Typically, they are earmarked to buy food because that's what we're about. And then we do some fundraisers as well. So we do the Giving Tuesday and we have a concession booth at the Siskiyou Golden Fair. And we do accept food donations. We do want the food to be not expired and not dented or rusted cans and, things that we have to throw away as well. And then we do have some people that have signed up for monthly donations, so they anywhere from $10 to up. So there's lots of different ways to help us as well. We actually have our little work guideline. If you wouldn't eat it, then please don't donate it. And our motto in the food bank is when in doubt, throw it out. We're just not going to take the chance of anybody getting sick. And we do a lot of recycling. So if it's food that is bad for some reason, we call the pig farmer and they get it. So we try not to waste anything. And then on that, we also recycle our cardboard, printer ink, cartridges, cans, bottles, egg cartons, paper and plastic bags, anything that we can. We are trying to be good stewards of the funding we receive as well as for our environment. And we have solar on our main building, so we're good with that too. So under current needs and expansion, so we do need additional storage. We have recently started the Siskiyou VOAD, which is the volunteer organizations assisting in disaster, active in disaster, for part of the Office of Emergency Services. So we are one of the first food people that are called for this. So if a shelter opens up and they need food right away, I get the call. Our building, as most of you know, is at the bowling alley. So we have a commercial kitchen and the food bank owns the whole building. So it's all ours. So we are able to cook meals and take them over there for those in the shelters. And we assist them until they shut the shelter down. And then at that point, instead of meals, they can come in and get groceries just like everybody else, on a monthly basis. Or if they're homeless, it's every 2 weeks. And a motel counts as homeless for this. So Congress, the House and Senate have passed legislation that will help to stop food waste while reducing food insecurity. It's known as the Food Donation Improvement Act. We are currently waiting for President Biden to sign on that legislation. But it does provide for businesses, restaurants, grocery stores, farmers, anybody to donate food without liability. There's a lot of people are afraid, oh, if somebody gets sick, it's going to come back and bite me, but it's not. So that's all going to be gone. Actually, a prior bill also passed something very similar to that. So reducing wasted food provides some food to help the hungry. So we are based pretty much on low-income households. And of course, victims of disaster doesn't matter about the income level. And then if there are specific emergencies, then we can give them food as well. And we are pro Siskiyou County, so it's anybody in Siskiyou County that is low income and meets our guidelines, it would be eligible to receive food. So that's what we do and why we do it. Any questions?
Thank you. Do I have any questions from the audience?
We're good.
Any questions from the council? Councilman Baker?
Thank you so much for being here tonight. I had actually been the one that spearheaded the presentation. I'm so impressed with the organization. How many volunteers
right now I have about 12. And I'm gonna have to just say the majority are 60 and over. It's not, I think it's kind of a thing that's going away, the volunteering. It just doesn't seem to be ingrained into our younger generations.
Mhm.
However, I do work with the charter schools at this point because they're required to do some type of community service. So I appreciate when they come because they get the clean jobs, cleaning jobs. But yeah, so, and I appreciate very much. And so for those of you who didn't know, Colleen used to volunteer with us prior to her win. And so she was just telling me a little bit ago that maybe she has more time to volunteer. So if anybody wants to volunteer, come on over to the food bank. I'm usually there 5 to 7 days a week. So stop by, give me a call, email, whatever you want to do to reach me.
Thank you. Organization, you are the executive director, that you are just, someone who loves their community. And, I don't want to put you on the spot, but how many hours a week do you volunteer with this organization?
Usually 60. During tax time, a little more. But, and then if we do other events, then it's a little more too, but a slow week would be 40 or 50 hours a week. So I used to work for the county. I have a pension. That's why I can do this. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Leach, and thank you for that presentation. And thank you, Councilman Baker, for inviting her to come speak with us. That's great information. So if anybody knows anybody wanting some volunteer work, go see her. Yeah, it is fading because I've been in some organizations and it's fading out, and we need our younger people to start giving back and volunteering because that's what helps our community go around.
Take your 8 cartons, your plastic paper bags.
Oh, real quick, yeah, our supervisor wants to speak.
Yes.
Come on back. You're not done yet. Look.
Thank you. So, is it a month or 2 ago? Yeah, so I wrote a grant for T-Mobile. It was called Hometown. I did put flyers in your mailboxes over in the office. Unfortunately, those of you who were invited didn't make it, but she did. But I'm just telling you. So it was a grant for $48,000. And so we kind of had to do a fake thing to get it going. So it wasn't really fake. I did appreciation for my volunteers, and then they piggybacked on that as helping the community of Yreka, which is why you were all invited. But our flyer didn't make that clear. I can quite honestly, it didn't, because I couldn't let the secret out. So anyway, that money is to, of course, help the food bank, help the people in our community. So it was for some specific items that I have learned we probably won't be able to do. So maybe that's something I can talk about at another time. But it was a very meaningful. So if you see the great big hot pink stickers on the doors around that say T-Mobile, it was from that and receiving that grant.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. At this time, we're going to go to number 6. This is for public comments. Public participation is welcomed and invited to all city council meetings. This time is set aside for residents to address the city council on matters listed on the consent agenda, as well as other items not included on the regular agenda. If your comments concern an item noted on the regular agenda, please address the council when that item is open for public comment. The city requests that persons addressing the city refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, and disruptive remarks. Council members, when recognized by the mayor, may ask questions of the presenter, but no action may be taken by the city council during public comment section of the meeting. Under the Brown Act, the city council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the posted agenda. This time is set aside for residents to address the city council on matters listed on the consent agenda, as well as other items not included on the regular agenda. If your comments concern an item noted on the regular agenda, please address the council when that item is open for public comment. Please speak into the microphone from the podium. The podium electronically adjust up and down to accommodate the speaker. Please state your name for the record prior to providing your comments. Please address the city council as a whole. If you have documents to present, please provide a minimum of 7 copies. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Public comment period is not intended to be a question and answer period or conversations with council or staff. This time is for the city council or city manager to respond public comments and may direct staff to prepare a report in place. Oh, I'm sorry, that was for 7. I skipped, sorry. All right, I skipped down 1. All right, so public comment. Do I have any public comment at this time? All right, come on down the podium. My screen jumped down, I'm sorry.
Jan Osborne, Yreka, California. And I think this would be a perfect time to bring this up since we talked about the Constitution and we heard Mr. Jared swear his oath to upholding our Constitution. I'd like to remind, I hope that this is a reminder to everyone, the comments that John Adams, our 2nd president, made about our Constitution. This Constitution, he said, was written for religious and moral people. It is totally inadequate to the government of any other. Morality and virtue are really the foundation of our republic, and it is essential to our liberty. Ms. Leach and her presentation and the comments from Council Member Baker and Supervisor Ogren about Ms. Leach's work. So we have some virtue in abundance in her, and there's a lot of virtue in our community. But there's a lot of whatever the opposite of virtue is, not good stuff going on. And I hope you've been keeping up with what's on the grapevine and looking at what's been happening. We have a lot of bad actors, and most of it seems to be drug related. And I am hopeful that the council, I'm saying this because I'm opposed to a marijuana dispensary or anything that has to do with marijuana. We have enough problems. But keep in mind that we have a responsibility, each one of us, to be moral, to be virtuous, and not just for ourselves, but for our republic, for our country. And as we look around, you don't have to look at the TV. Well, I don't look at TV, I read my news online, but look at it. There's a lot going on that's very bad, but that's what we hear the most of. There's a lot of good going on too, but I would encourage everyone who's hearing my words, and especially the council members, to consider when you're talking about introducing another harm into our community with a marijuana dispensary, that you consider how much harm there already is here. In my neighborhood, just 2 weeks ago, a young man who is now in the Siskiyou County Jail because he was under the influence of drugs, was going around the neighborhood, going up on people's porches, cursing at them and flailing. My neighbors told, I wasn't home, and my neighbors, a young couple next door, came as soon as I drove in and said, Jan, you got to be careful. There's this guy running around the neighborhood. I found out later that he had asked my neighbor for water. And kind person that she is, she got him a bottle of water. He opened it, sniffed it, poured it out, and then threw the bottle and hit her in the chest. Empty bottle. She said she wasn't hurt. The next day I went down to another neighbor's. She just moved in and she lives alone. She's a widow like I am. And I wanted her to know to be on her guard because she's outside sometimes by herself. And when I started telling her and her son, who happened to be there, he interrupted. Oh, you mean the guy that hosed us down? He came up and asked them for water. They had a hose out and were cooling the concrete, when it was setting up. Said he wanted some water. And my neighbor said she would go in and get him a bottle. No, I can drink it out of the hose. And then he asked them to step back, which they did. He picked up the hose and hosed her from head to toe, and then turned and hosed her son. Now, this is the kind of things that we're putting up. This is in my neighborhood. I didn't see any of this. This is neighbors. He had been to the neighbor across the street as well. He is in jail now. But we have a lot of bad things that are happening in our city. And I don't think we're doing enough to stop it. I don't want to be Cassandra. I want you to listen to this prophecy and don't give me Cassandra's curse that was nobody believes her. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have public comment at this time?
Glenn White, Yreka. This is your monthly update on the Greenway and the Greenhorn Park area. The park appears to be free of illegal campers at this time. No new illegal trash dumps have been observed. Good job on that. Trails are clear and usable. Sidewinder still has those trees across the west trail. There does continue to be some vandalism, graffiti in and around the mining town area, but I'm sure you're going to be getting to that. Citizens are using the park as they envisioned it would be when they started this thing back long ago. Greenway, Prop 84, our $2 million project. Visitor center area, which is behind the museum. All the illegal campers are finally out of there. We thank you. The critical infrastructure signs are up. There still is a large trash dump in and about within 50 feet of our anadromous fisheries that must be removed. Logs have rolled into the footbridge area and have knocked it off the footings, which now has become a safety hazard. And our visitor center, which is behind the museum, which hopefully people will use, needs a good cleaning. Trails need to be cleaned. Vegetation needs to be cut back. Graffiti needs to be removed. Mount Shasta tidal area, those infrastructure signs are also up. There are currently 5 illegal campsites in this section alone, which I guess is a violation of the critical infrastructure ordinance. Maybe we need to start enforcing that. A new trash dump has also appeared within our anadromous fisheries waterway. It needs to be removed. There also is a large sinkhole that has appeared in the trail itself, about 100 meters down from the South Main Street. Shopping carts, stolen shopping carts, have again reappeared in that area, and there continues to be a lot of refuse in our anadromous fisheries. You're starting to do a good job, but we need to do a better job in that area. That's $2 million that we paid for. There were outlines identified when the grant proposal was written that are not being followed. If you're going to take money from the state, follow what you say you're going to do. Pretty simple. We look forward to the enforcement of the critical infrastructure ordinance so that regular citizens can once again feel free to walk their greenway. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time?
Seth Fortner Hansen, Montague. But I have for many years been a member here in Yreka as a resident for a while, as a city employee with the police department from the years 2012 to 2014 as a dispatcher, for some time with the county in public health and in behavioral health. So I grew up here in this community, the son of a railroader, Tom Hansen, for the Union Pacific, and the son of a teacher, Rebecca Fortner, for Yreka. She has worked here for 20 years and still teaches. So I'm here not to complain necessarily about that or criticize or tell you what you need to do. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I'm here to offer my thoughts and gratitude. First off, to Mayor Middleton, I would like to thank you for taking your time to answer my questions when you were a council member here. And when it was about the bicycle lanes, you promptly answered my questions on who to speak with on how to get those concerns addressed. And in public, you've always been very cordial and engaging and very energetic whenever we've talked. So I'd like to thank you for that.
Thank you.
To Dwayne Kay, we met when I worked at the county. I don't know if you remember me, perhaps you do. We worked together in the coalition. And I wanted to also offer my thanks to you for every time that I would speak up, you would listen with enthusiasm. When we did our point in time surveys, you listened to me when I talked about my experiences with that. You really gave me hope about that. So I'd like to thank you for being a driving force for that kind of positive change. And to Chief Gilman, as I said, I worked for the police department for a couple of years as a dispatcher, and there were many long nights where he was a sergeant at the time. He was my OIC and sergeant, and there were many long nights where we'd spend, killing time talking about many cool different things. I can tell you honestly that Chief Gilman is an honest man with integrity, and I'd like to thank you for moving our safety forward in this community. To Councilman Baker, you are a colleague who has always been transparent to me about what your objectives have been. You've been a wonderful mentor to me in understanding government and answering my endless questions. You have also been a champion of encouragement to me about my business ideas. No matter how grand they may seem, you always seem to give me your best support. But most of all, you've become a very dear friend to me and my family. And you've been a lighthouse during a time when it was very dark for us. So I want to thank you personally from the bottom of my heart for that as well. When I speak to other community members, I do become more hopeful. I know that there's a lot of animosity, but there's still a lot of excitement of people that have fond memories of this town that we very, very dearly cherish. Many of us are eager to revitalize the tourism and industry that we do have. And my friends, that is reason for excitement. I hope to begin my own business here, and I intend to use my platform to promote other businesses, the scenic and historic areas, the cultures that we have, and the adventures that are about us. And I want to offer to locals and to visitors a frontier experience unlike anything else. And the more I share my ideas to community members and to the Siskiyou Small Business Development Center, the more support and help I have been getting. I want to live here prosperously, and I want to see others prosper. And to that, I would rather be called a foolhardy optimist than a hard-hearted cynic who has lost all hope in their town. And on one final note, I would like to say this. As a community, I can see that we are all hurting, but it's together that we get better. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? All right, I'll close public comment. Public comment follow-up. This is the time for city council or the city manager to respond to public comments and may direct staff to prepare a report or place an item on a future agenda item. Councilman Baker?
So, Mr. Bowden, Mr. White, in his public comments, talked about a bridge and possible safety issues. So what is the process to have that looked into, or are you aware of that? And it's
Yeah, I believe Mr. White was more than likely referencing some footbridges. Ultimately, you know, I had walked the Greenway with Council Member Davis, and I think that there are some areas, obviously a lot of opportunities for the city over in the Greenway area. There's a lot of pockets for hiding. I think the intent of the Greenway back in the 80s and the nonprofit, which would have been the SGPGA, I believe, that organized that grant, had really good intentions and could not have seen the future in regards to the homeless or unhoused issue now confronting the western states. So ultimately, yeah, we will investigate those footbridges, but ultimately to the project known as the Greenway is technically not complete. And so there are some paths back behind the businesses that are still technically on private property. They're not actually on the Greenway. The Greenway is not a complete trail system, although it is utilized by some people as though it is. So we'll have to determine if those are, I believe that they are on technically the public property section, but I believe Councilmember Davis, we saw those footbridges when we came underneath the freeway and right at that intersection coming out of the tunnel, I believe is where they're at. So we'll investigate that with Chief Gilman and Public Works.
Thank you, Councilman Baker. Anybody, any other council members? Councilman Cake?
Quick comment about the graffiti. I think that is something we definitely need to handle in more prompt form. Just, oops. Sorry. There we go. Try it again. I think the graffiti is something we've discussed before as something that we need to handle in a more prompt form of some sort. So I'm not sure what that means, Mr. Ledbetter. So if there's some way we could get that handled faster, because I know that Mr. McCoy and I seen the graffiti that was clear back during the point in time count and along the bridge area, and it still hasn't been handled. So I don't know what we need to do to kind of speed that up on that, because a lot of the language that's the graffiti that's on those bridges are not acceptable for public at all. So I'm not sure what that means. So if you could bring that back on that aspect on how we could handle graffiti with the public works and whatnot, just because yeah, I don't think it's proper for the public to be viewing some of that graffiti that's on those bridges. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that we'll have to have a discussion. When you say bridges, are you talking
Main
about
bridge.
they belong to the city or they belong to Caltrans?
Well, the part of that would be Caltrans, yes. Because, so I don't know how we handle that, because that's that one big bridge that goes obviously under this freeway and all that area. That is, it is horrible. It's solid graffiti now. And that was not very pretty.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we work that with them then. That's probably, you know, how we take that situation and work with it, because like I said, it's not proper for some of the graffiti that's on there. It's not proper for anybody to be viewing, let alone kids or whatnot. So.
Yeah, we can contact Caltrans.
Cool. Thank you.
Councilman Quinn?
Yeah, I think that we discussed that, and we've discussed it with other city managers. I think the issue has been trying to figure out who really has it, because we can't just go in and touch Caltrans property. They get really, really touchy about it. So, and then there's a light that is out down there now. I think actually the face has been ripped off it. But I'd like to just ask one question is, as far as getting a permit, we can't just go in and clean up the river. The creek bed, I know that. We'd get a big fine, no matter what's in there. We're gonna get a huge fine from California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Do we have the 1,600 permit yet from California Department of Fish and Wildlife in our office?
No, we
Okay.
currently don't. We have been given an email letting us know that we will be receiving it. And so I believe that we anticipate sometime in early June that we'll be able to access all of the waterways in the city of Yreka.
And then don't we have to apply for a second permit in order to clean the 1,600? It's just an overarching.
Yeah, I believe there's some other permitting that
Okay.
is required.
Yeah, and I appreciate you have taken, you and Assistant City Manager Hogan have taken this by the bull by the horns for the whole year you've been here to get it through. And I thank you for your due diligence on it, because we've been working on it now with California Fish and Wildlife, for those who don't know, for over 5 years and couldn't get a permit through. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Pro Tem McCoy. Anybody else at this time? Council members? All right. Okay, I will move on to item 8. This is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and non-controversial and will be enacted by one motion unless any of the council members wishes to remove any item for discussion. A, approval ratification of payments issued from April 3rd, 2023 through May 5th, 2023. B, approval of minutes of the special meeting held April 14th, 2023. C, approval of minutes of the regular meeting held April 18th, 2023. D, continued urgency ordinance at number 864 fireworks. Looks like this parentheses needed until June 18, 2023, when ordinance 874 becomes effective. E, waive full text readings of all ordinances on the agenda. Ordinances shall be introduced and adopted by title only. Recommend City Council action is the motion to adopt a consent agenda of the City Council of the Yreka City of Yreka as presented. Mr. K, Councilman
I
K.
ask that we pull 8A because I have a financial conflict of interest on that one. So I need to recuse myself from that one. So I need to pull that 8A, but not the rest, just 8A.
Okay, Councilman K is requesting to pull 8A for a conflict of interest for a financial reason. All right,
The rest, nothing else.
okay. So you're gonna pull it and come back for the vote. Okay, without it. Okay. Anybody else? Public comment at this time? Actually, I don't think I need to do public comment. I read that already. Never mind, sorry. Okay. What are the wishes of the council? Councilman Baker?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda item B.
I have a motion for Councilman Baker for approval. Agenda item B through E. And then I have a second from Councilman Davis. Okay, I'll go for roll call. Councilman Kaag,
Aye.
Councilman Davis,
Aye.
Councilman Baker, Pro Tem McCoy,
Aye.
and I, Mayor Middleton. Motion passes 5-0 for item 8A, B through E. Okay, so we'll go back to item 8A. Approval for ratification of payments issued from April 3rd, 2023 through May 5th, 2023. And please note that Councilman Kaag is recusing himself from this item. What are the wishes of the council? Any discussion? No, okay. What are the wishes of the council?
So moved. This is Councilman McCoy.
Okay, I have the motion from Councilman Pro Tem McCoy. And the second from Councilman Baker. I'll do roll call. Councilman Baker, I'm sorry, Davis,
Aye.
Councilman Baker, Councilman Pro Tem McCoy,
Aye.
and Mayor Middleton be aye. Motion passes 4-0. All right, item number 9, new business. This is city manager agenda title, Yreka Log special event known as the Yreka Holiday Parade to be held November 5th, 2023. The Yreka Elks have submitted a letter of interest in hosting the Yreka Holiday Parade. The Elks, as the event organizer, is requesting $7,500 cash payment, a waiver of the stage rental fee of $250 per day, rental of portable restrooms, and match of in-kind labor and equipment costs incurred from the Public Works Department for street closures, street sweeping, stage setup and breakdown, extra trash removal before, during, and after the event, $750 estimated value. The recommended city council action is the motion to adopt resolution 2023-2022, Yreka City Council of the city approving street closures and other requests to appropriate a $7,500 cash match and provide 1,000 of city in-kind services for the Yreka Elks Lodge special event known as the Yreka Holiday Parade. Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Yreka City Council. This is Jason Ledbetter, the city manager for the city of Yreka. So if you'll recall, in 2022, it was brought to my attention that it had been a number of years, I think at least a number of many months, that the chamber contract had been decided to be canceled and ultimately left the city in a bind because the city council felt at that time that there were 3 events that were city events. And so there is the Gold Rush Days, which is now being handled by Discover Siskiyou. There is Night of Lights, which is also being handled by Discover Siskiyou. And then it was roughly around September to October that this information was provided to me and that we needed to organize a holiday parade. And so ultimately the last council had some ideas on who they wanted to handle that parade. And that happened to be the Elks Lodge. And so tonight we have Mr. Brian Favreau. If you wouldn't mind coming down, sir. Basically here to present and make the request for $7,500 to operate the Yreka Holiday Parade this coming November 25th. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilwoman and Councilmen and the employees of Yreka City. And thank you, Manager Ledbetter, for that lovely introduction. You've given me the preface of how I am standing in front of you today asking for some money. Okay. So again, my name is Brian Favreau. I have a residence here in Yreka, and I'm representing the Yreka Elks BPOE. That's Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks, if you've ever wanted to know what all that stands for. And we are lodge number 1980. No, we didn't come into existence in 1980. We came into existence in 1955. So I'm here to basically, again, ask for your permission to assume the working pieces of the holiday parade. And I think that you may have already received 2 letters in your packet on Friday. Probably you got your packet. Mm-hmm. So those letters pretty much spell out exactly what I'm doing up here in front of you. And if you've already read it, I'm just going to maybe just ask you what questions you have about that, because really those 2 letters spell it all out. I don't need to repeat them. So I'm open for questions.
All right. Do I have any questions from, first off, do I have any questions from the audience first before I go to the city council for the Elks Club? Okay. I will go to city council. Questions? Councilman Baker.
Thank you, Mayor Middleton. Thank you so much for coming before us tonight. And I attended last year's parade. I've attended a lot of the holiday parades, and you guys just did a fabulous job. And I appreciate what you want to do for the community, but I'm a little concerned about the price tag. Quite honestly, that's a 36% increase from what we provided to you last year. And so I'm wondering if you could give me a little bit of justification for that stipend that you are requesting.
Be happy to. Be happy to. First of all, you're asking me, what are we going to get for our money? Right? pretty much? Okay. So you're going to, first of all, get the equivalent of an executive director of the parade. You're going to get a turnkey event, a cadre of volunteers that, with a proven track record from last year, to put in about 125 hours of work to create that. And if you pencil that out at $15 and $15.50 an hour, that's almost $1,937.50 of slave labor. I'm going to say right now, nobody is getting paid on our team to do this. At the same time, it's really gets old working for free. And so that's why we ask for some kind of stipend for this event. You'll get social media exposure for your parade. You get postering countywide for your parade. You'll get judges that are going to judge 15 categories of the entrance. There'll be first place trophies, second and third place ribbons. In the past, the Chamber of Commerce typically would only give out, according to my data, cash prizes for the first, second, and third entrance. We give out trophies to all the first place people and also a trophy for the judges' sweepstakes, if you will. You're going to get Santa Claus. You'll have a great event for the city of Yreka. And you'll also have a wonderful downtown merchants activity for shoppers. Okay, so money. It's my understanding anecdotally for the last 10 years or so that the city, by way of the Chamber of Commerce, was giving them about $5,000 a year. If you were to take 10 years worth of $5,000 at a 3% CPI, that actually comes to $6,720. So that $5,000 that theoretically would have been given to us yesterday, or rather last year, 10 years ago, has now shrunk to $6,720, which really only gives us a $780 real dollar difference between what we're asking for us of $7,500. Our estimated costs are going to be around $4,500. And so when we subtract that $4,500 from the $7,500, we get roughly $3,000. Again, nobody's getting paid. The $3,000 will go back to the general fund to keep our doors open so we can continue to run bingo, so that we can have that social activity for the cadre and the strata, if you will, of humanity that come to bingo. That's their only social outlet. If you don't believe me, come and watch our bingo sometime. And also part of that 3,000 that we hope to net from this, as much as 1,200 of it is going to try to go to the Veterans Evergreen Cemetery Fund to offset the watering costs of their lawn there. I don't have the exact numbers on that because Michael Murphy is out of town, but anecdotally, again, I was told it's going to be about $1,200. So, Councilman Baker, I like to say that the Elks are really a highly regarded organization in this community, and our lodge is really the cornerstone of Minor Street. Okay. And we really want to keep our doors open, but we really have to make sure that we're getting something for all the time that we're asking from our volunteers. This is not an easy job to put on. I could pull out, well, laundry list, permit application, review entry forms, call Dwayne, Grand Marshal, trophies, ribbons, announcer, business, free advertisement, stage, Cliffs Awards, social media, signage day before, porta potties, barricades, snow removal, Caltrans, music, porta potties, volunteer placements, duties before and after parade, checklist, beers, old car replacement, and so on. Okay, so that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy. Did that answer your question?
Actually, it did. Thank you so much. And Mr. Ledbetter, I have a question for you. In the paperwork that we received, you said that the estimate for the city's costs is approximately $750. And I talked with you this afternoon about if that included indirect costs also, and also the cost of the permits that we would be providing. And I'm hoping that you will have some figures for me about those items.
Yes, Councilmember Baker. So ultimately, with your inquiry, we came up with is that there would be a stage rental fee of $250 normally. The Public Works crew, based off of last year's hours for setup and breakdown, is roughly $1,277. The porta potties come out to roughly $375. The permit fee that's waived is $350. So there's a total of indirect and direct fees that would not be applied under the current motion of roughly $2,252.34.
Anyone else for
Thank you,
questions?
Councilman Baker. 1 second. What did you say about the lighting? Hold on.
Can we get some lights turned on so we can see people out there? Yeah, because all we can see is glare. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay.
Just
Okay.
so I can see this week.
I'll go to anybody else, Councilman McCoy,
Yeah.
Pro Tem McCoy for,
I'll wait till Jason comes back.
Okay.
Because it's probably gonna be directed at Jason or Retta more.
Okay.
And perhaps our city attorney.
all right.
Thank you. It's just easier. We can see you better. I'm noticing that we're appropriating a $7,500 cash match. So we're requiring them to put up $7,500 to this, as well as $1,000 worth of in-kind, which he's covered already. So we're actually looking at about a $17,000, well, it'd be $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 parade. Is that what why are we asking for a cash match? Or why are they asking for a cash match? Or
I think that normally under these circumstances, we just speculate that there's in-kind services with the Public Works Department setting up and taking down. And then
no, but I'm asking, they're going to put up, he just said $3,000 is probably going to go into their general fund. But we're asking them for a $7,500 cash match. We're appropriating that they're going to put up $7,500 and we're going to put up $7,500. And it doesn't sound like that. So I think we maybe need to reword it is all.
yeah, under this circumstance, it is, and the wording is not,
Yeah, it doesn't
if that's
reflect
the
what
way
we're
it's
doing.
reading, ultimately, the request is that the city would essentially, like we've done in the past, is that we would write a check for $7,500 to the Elks to run the event. And then there's some verbiage in there about kind of the in-kind costs that the city would inevitably cover, which are kind of covered in the cost that
Yeah.
I just discussed.
So we're not requiring them to match those costs. Okay.
No.
And then under use of, under the MOU, item 1, this includes but is not limited to the following: use of city Yreka parking spaces at City Hall for the event registration. Now, my understanding after spending 23 years full-time with the Yreka Union School District and 2 years as a sub is that parking lot actually, because all of this was deeded to, this used to be the school until Jackson was built. This was deeded for $1. So my understanding from some old timers like Bob Singleton and some of the older superintendents is that parking lot really belongs to city, to the Jackson Street School, except for a few spaces along here or to Yreka Union School District. So I think that needs to be scrapped out of there because there's no need to ask us, because I know that when I was, for the 23 years I was at Jackson Street full-time, we'd come over, we had a thing with the city, we'd come over and let the city know when we were having tournaments and things like that so that we could work it out so that there weren't things going on, because it wasn't, although it got used a lot by the city, the understanding was, and like many things that have gone down in schools here in Siskiyou County, is things are they're not on paper, they're all on a handshake. But as I said, for $1, the property was given, but the parking lot remained Yreka Union School District.
I can speak to that. I didn't know that was the case last year. I was not told that. But here is the reason why I came back to Mr. Ledbetter and asked for permission to stage out of there with our 9 volunteers to launch the parade and to also sign everybody in and create a space to have our trophies on display and all that. Initially, what we always did was we set up that exact same situation on the overhang of the Jackson Street School entrance. So that if it rained, snowed and all that, all the people could come and sign up and get their numbers and all that at Jackson Street under the overhang. So I went to the principal and he said, "Oh, I can't talk to you about that. You got to go over here and talk to these nice people in this building." So I go over and talk to these nice people in this building and they said, "Well, here is about a 5-page document you need to fill out to get insurance so that you can now sit on our steps where you used to be all the time."
Yeah.
And I didn't even want to go to find out how much that was going to cost, because every time we put our chuck wagon at Jackson Street next to the gym, it's $350. Do you know how many hamburgers you have to sell
Yep. I
to
know.
break even after
I've-
you buy the product?
Yeah, I've sat at
So,
23 tournaments
Okay,
over there
Thank you,
with,
Councilman.
with the
So
Elks.
I came over and I talked to Mr. Ledbetter. I said, "Can you help us out here?" Right?
Mhm.
Okay. If I would have known that this was Jackson Street School, I would have gone and talked to somebody about some insurance. Okay. And failing that, I would have gone to the library to see if we could stage out of the library. Because, you know, you get to the point where insurance is nickel and diming us to death. I don't even want to go into what happens at the hall. Okay, so if this is a deal killer with you guys, I guess I'm gonna have to get some insurance or just waive the whole thing off.
Well, the parade traditionally has staged over at Jackson Street, which is not part, yes, traditionally it's staged at Jackson Street.
Yeah, that's what we
It
always
has,
used to
it
do.
has staged over here and it has staged in that parking lot at the library.
So your
and-
point is, are we gonna do it or not?
No, that's not my point. My
Oh.
point is exactly as I shared with you today. I think this as an MOU needs to be struck because it's not our concern. This is not our property. This belongs to Yreka Union School District, not Jackson Street, Yreka Union School District. That's, and I'm not telling you, I'm just bringing it to city manager Ledbetter's approval.
Okay,
I mean,
so
to his eyes. And so I'm actually not addressing anything to you. I'm addressing it to him.
Mhm.
And again, I've sat at 23 different Elks tournaments over there. For 23 years, I sat at the Elks tournament. For 23 years, I opened the gate to let the guys in. For 23 years, I walked. So I did the Elks hoop shoot, 23 years. So I'm aware of what you do and I appreciate it. I'm not trying to squash that. What I have to do as city council is make sure that we cover ourselves. That's all I'm doing. So what I'm asking is
got it.
that
I
this
got it.
be,
Yeah.
that this be taken out of the MOU, Mr. Favreau, because it does not pertain to us. This pertain, I can tell you all day, yeah, go park over in the Ace Harbor, go do it over here. Do it. That's fine. That doesn't legally, I have no authority to do that. Just like we have no authority to sit out here and tell you, that, you know, that you can park out there. You need to go, as I said earlier, you need to go to and talk to the superintendent and the principal over at that school. Schools are difficult to understand. I realize that the hierarchy. Principal doesn't speak for the district. Principal only speaks for her school. Sarah does. The superintendent is the one that makes decisions overall for the district.
So how far was I hanging it out with not having adequate permission or insurance to stage out of here last year? And now what do we do for this year? Who do we get permission from?
I've already told you. I've told you 3 or 4 times.
The superintendent.
Yeah, superintendent, Yreka Union School District. Yeah.
And do I need to create a letter to him in person? or can I
That's
go
up to
talk
you,
him?
sir. I'm not here to advise. And I'm not here to, I mean, you're getting somewhat combative and I know I'm getting combative and I want to apologize for that. I am here just to address the language. That's all I'm trying to
Okay,
do.
well,
you
we'll
know.
meet offline and get this so organized. That's fine. Thank you
Yeah.
for that information. It just took me by surprise completely. And again, the only reason we ended up in your parking lot is because the principal said we couldn't use his overhang into his.
And again,
Okay, it's all good.
let me share with you that the principal at that school has no authority to tell you that you can't use his overhang.
I got it.
That steps way over his boundary.
Got it. Okay.
If you don't mind, can we have Mr. Mayor, can we have Mr. Bray come give a couple
Yes.
comments? I believe he wants to talk about this parking lot.
Yes, okay. So Mr. Bray is going to speak on that because, yeah, it does say the city spaces. So whatever city spaces, I guess that's what it's worded.
Mr. Mayor.
So thank you,
members of
Mr. Bray.
council, Mr. Mayor, members
You
of
can answer.
council, Director, Public Works, Matthew Bray. The parking lot is owned by the city. The handshake deal that you speak to, Councilman McCoy, was about parking and usage by the teachers to utilize the city parking lot. We maintain that lot, we own that lot, we repair that lot, we paint the lot, we clean the lot, we pay to have the lot clean. So it is a city parking lot.
That was not my
So
understanding, so I
that
stand
is
corrected
the-
because my understanding was that this was owned by Yreka Union and the other piece of ground behind your office is owned by Yreka Union and
That-
you pay to keep it up
That is
and you
correct.
pay to keep this up.
The-
That's my understanding
piece
from
north of this
past
building
superintendents.
is actually not city. We do maintain that. And that's part of the handshake that you spoke to, that when the transfer happened. And I've never seen it in writing and anywhere about the parking, but there exists somewhere on
Yeah.
the planet about certain parking lots are to be painted yellow for the city and folks to park here, and then the other ones are white. For the
Yeah.
teachers.
So I apologize, but
It is owned outright. by
that's
the
not
city.
my understanding from past superintendents within the
I
district
want
that
to
I
clear it
worked
up
for.
publicly, so everyone knows.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brave. So it is clarified that the city owns the parking lot. So we don't have an issue with that. Okay. So Mr. Fabro, come back up. Please. Thank you.
Could I clarify what I think I just heard is that the city actually owns that parking?
We
lot?
own the parking lot.
And I do
Yes.
not have to go to ask Mother May I to anybody
You'll
else.
have,
to-
yeah, we approve
except
it.
right here
Then,
in the
yeah.
city. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
And I'm ready to feel,
Okay.
feel any of.
All right. So Mr. Anybody else over here? To my right? Okay. Ms. Baker.
I just have one comment,
Okay.
and we'll make it very brief. Mr. Fabro, I want to thank you for being able to provide me with a breakdown of the Elks expenses for this parade. I always like to know exactly, personally, I like to know exactly how the city is spending its money. And it is not meant in any way as being a naysayer. I'm not being the Grinch. I just like to know where our money's going to. So I appreciate your explanation so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, please hold on one second. Okay. Okay. Everybody jumping. Okay. 1 second here. I lost my. Okay. Okay, Mr. Davis, do you have a question for Mr. Favreau?
No, I don't.
Oh,
I have an Onyx app on my cell phone and it says this parking lot out here is City of Yreka. And so far as I can see, Mr. Favreau's request to use that parking lot is perfectly within our realm
I'll repeat.
of compliance. So
Okay. He was just confirming what Mr. Bray said, that the parking lot is owned by the city.
And excuse
Wait,
me,
hold on,
Clear it
order,
up.
order,
excuse me
order,
for saying so, but
Order, order, please, order. Okay, he has the floor right now. Mr. Davis had the floor.
Sorry,
Okay.
Mr. Councilman Davis.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Favreau, please? Okay,
I had my hand raised.
okay. Councilman Kay.
I just want to thank them for putting it on last year. It was a great event. I've always been honored to be a part of that event. So any more questions or comments you want from me, I'm so I can help you out in whatever you want. It does take a lot of time. I do know that firsthand of a lot of years of putting it on, that it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy goes out to it. And it's very welcome by our community. So I think it's much needed for our community. Brings families together. Every year you hear people talking about families coming together to watch the parade. It's been an ongoing tradition for a lot of years. 70, what do we have? 70? Uh-oh, I lost my count on that one. 70 something years now, isn't it?
Right. I think it's 77 or 78. this
Yeah,
year.
somewhere around there. So yeah, it's been an ongoing thing that definitely a tradition that needs to keep going. So I appreciate all the time. Much appreciated.
Thank you. And I'm really happy to hear that you're willing to listen to perhaps some needs of mine, because I can use all the help I can get.
Absolutely.
Believe me.
Absolutely. Just don't tell my wife.
Yeah.
She might get a little mad at me helping out again, but that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keg. All right. Yeah, I agree. It's been a tradition in Yreka for many, many years since I was a little kid. And, right now we don't have, and costs go up. I mean, I wasn't shocked that more money was going to be asked for after the cost of everything is just rising. And so you know, we don't have a lot of organizations or anybody beating down the door at this time to put it on, you know. As the food bank said, volunteers are going away. It's hard to get volunteers. It's really hard to get somebody to commit to an event to even do this. And I think it's a fair deal. And I appreciate your organization for coming forward for the city of Yreka and doing it last year. And, you know, here we're going on June. If we, as a council, I'm not telling everybody what to do, but if we decide not to move forward, we're too late in the game to even find somebody else at this point. And so we should be really appreciative. I know I am for the Elks for stepping up to purposes too. So thank you very much. And I agree with Councilman Baker by breaking down the cost of why the increase that was very much needed. Sometimes we don't get that from the ask of other organizations when they come forward to ask for more money. So I agree with Councilman Baker on that. So I thank her for that question and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
All right. Okay, with that, I'm going to close comment for the council and I'm going to go. Again, I'll repeat since we got a lot. I'm going to repeat the recommended city council action. The motion is to adopt the resolution 2322 of the Yreka City Council of the city of Yreka approving street closures and other requests to appropriate a $7,500 cash match and provide 1,000 of city in-kind services for the Yreka Elks Lodge special event known as the Yreka Holiday Parade. What are the wishes of the council?
Right, call for question.
Oh, call for question.
And I know that Mr. Favreau thinks that I'm picking on him, but I'm not. I think to appropriate $7,500 cash match and put that in there is saying that we expect them to match $7,500. And I think that needs to be pulled out.
So we pull that out, the cash
And I
match.
know that you think I'm picking on you, but I'm not. I'm looking out for you.
So you want the cash match to removed and save it, say appropriate $7,500.
Just take the match out.
Okay.
I think we're gonna hear from, if you don't mind, from our city attorney on how to rectify this.
So, yeah, I agree. that
Thank you.
Looking at the agenda or looking at the staff report does cause some confusion. And looking at the resolution, though, that's the official action you're taking. I don't see how that is being inserted as any term of confusion.
Where's the resolution?
In the
Page
back.
59 or 519.
Way back there. So I'm sorry.
So in the fourth recital paragraph, it says that they were requesting a cash contribution of $7,500 from the city, $250 fee waiver, use and support of the stage, and service of public works, $7,500 or $750 in kind value relating to public works. That to me is calling out specifically what your action is, not what the staff report or the agenda says. It's causing the slight verbiage confusion.
So is there something that's been removed? Or is it as is fine?
It sounded to me like Mayor Pro Tem's concern was about the cash match part, and that's not referenced in the resolution.
Okay,
As I'm
the city
reading.
council action, okay.
Yeah, and that's the official city council action. So, however you'd like to word it, we can write it differently if you want to include this, or as is, it's very clearly stating what your obligations are in giving funds and in-kind services to the others.
So you are saying that it's fine written as is, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, Councilman
Call
Baker.
for a question. So Mr. Ledbetter provided us with data that shows that the city's actually utilizing or providing $2,250 in kind. And that includes the permit and the encroachment permit. So I would like to see that included in the resolution.
So changing the 1,000 or adding the 2,200?
Right. As I understand it, it's showing that we have a $750 in-kind donation listed in the resolution. And I would just like to see the resolution updated to include the actual cost to the city that the city would be providing.
So you want a 750 to 1,000? Because that's not what I'm seeing in front of me.
I would like it to include Mr. Ledbetter's information that the cost would be $2,250 based on last year's.
And taking out the
Work.
1,000 and taking out the 1,000.
Yes.
Okay. I'll go back to our city attorney.
So it sounds to me like what you would be proposing then is a change to paragraph 4 of the recital, where it says, whereas in conjunction with these events, the event sponsor requests temporary closure of certain streets, cash contribution of $7,500 from the city, a $250 fee waiver, and the use of city on portable stage and services of public works. Here's where I think we'd make the change. And other departments for an approximate value of $2,600 or something, whatever that actual figure is.
2,250, I believe, was the figure.
Yeah, it's an approximation based off of how many folks from Public Works end up out there. So
And so taking out the 1,000, correct? Is that what she wants taken out of the recommended city council action for the motion for the resolution? Because it says 7,500 cash match, provide 1,000 city of kind services, but she's saying she wants to have a 2,250. So is it 2,250 on top of the 1,000 or just 2,250 total?
I think we want to replace the 1,000 with a rough estimation of
2,250.
2,250.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. That's what I needed to know. Okay. Okay. I got that, Councilor Pro Tem McCoy.
So thank you, Councilwoman Baker. The other thing is, we're not requiring in kind. In kind would be matching them. In other words, they'd be putting out another 2,250. That's what in kind is when you match what somebody else has already put in. So I'm just, again, just looking at it, of course, I'm looking at it through my 30 years in education, is that if we want to, I just think probably the recommendation requested action needs to be rewritten. It's for them. It's for the Elks as much or more than it is for us. So to clarify it. Because we're not asking for in kind and we're not asking them to match.
So we're going to remove cash, if I'm understanding, we're going to move the cash match after the 7,500, change the 1,000 to 2,250 and get rid of the words of city in-kind services, correct?
And cash match.
Yeah, that's after the 7,500. Correct? Is that okay with, what are the wishes of the council? Is that going to be okay? As a recommendation from our city attorney and for the changes?
If that's your desire, and that's a motion, then that's what you should make.
For the changes?
Right.
Okay.
And then the change that I think we should make then to the 4th paragraph of the resolution would be, as I stated, striking the $750 in-kind value and putting in an approximate value of 25.
Okay, our city clerk and city manager, our assistant city manager, you have that change?
I do. If I just strike everything in the parentheses, I think it'll match the resolution title and negate the language of the monetary, which is embedded in the resolution itself.
Okay, so I asked for the motion for the changes first, correct? Okay. Okay, so I will, what are the wishes for council for the changes as noted? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I have a motion from Councilman Kaeg for the changes. Do I have a second?
Councilman McCoy will second.
And I have a second from Pro Tem McCoy. I'll do roll call. Councilman Kaeg, Councilman Davis.
Aye.
Councilman Baker,
Aye.
Pro Tem Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
and I, Mayor Middleton, be aye. Okay, so now we'll go back to the change. Recommend city action. So the recommended city council action now is the motion to adopt resolution 2023-22 of the city council of the city of Yreka approving street closures at the request to appropriate $7,500 and provide $2,250 for services for the Yreka Elks Lodge special event known as the Yreka Holiday Parade. What are the wishes of the council? Oh, okay.
If there's no further discussion, so moved. Councilman McCoy.
I have a motion by Councilman Pro Tem McCoy. Do I have a second?
A second.
And a second from Councilman Davis. I'll do roll call. Councilman Kaag,
Aye.
Councilman Davis,
Aye.
Councilman Baker,
Aye.
Councilman Pro Tem McCoy.
Aye.
That will be aye. The motion passes 5-0 for the Elks to do the holiday parade. Congratulations and thank you again. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're making ours.
We'll have a good summer. If we don't see you in the summer, we'll see you in November. Okay. So we'll move on to item 8B. This is the agenda title. This is Public Works Director. This is SB1 Road Repair and Accountability Act projects list for fiscal year 23-2024. The city has been allocated an estimated $192,348 in road maintenance rehabilitation RMRA funds for fiscal year 2023-2024. To set these funds and fulfill the accountability and transparency provisions is SB1, a resolution listing potential projects is required by the California Transportation Commission, CTC, before the list submitted. City staff have created the 2023 Strategic Paving Preventative and Planning SPPP project to encompass the city's priorities. Mr. Bray.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Director of Public Works, Matthew Bray. It's an exciting time of year for Public Works. It's when we get the pot of money coming back in from the SB1 and the gas tax through the RMRA that you just spoke to. Over the years prior to Measure C's passing, this is pretty much all we got. This is all we had, and there were many years we did not chip seal at all during the summer. The last 7 or 8 years have been very kind to us in Public Works with funding, with Measure C, with the support of the citizens behind us, and the RMRA. So the 192 this year will be coupled up as we always do with the Measure C money and make as much of the road black as we can. So just a little history here. A number of years ago, the LTC, the Local Transportation Commission, we all banded together and decided to go with a new street saver program. And what that is it's an actual truck that drives around town every 4 or 5 years. We're on a rotation between all the other cities in the county. And that truck has a radar measuring bar on the front that does ultra radar and measures deflection, cracking, alligator cracking, and it creates somewhat of a roadmap of the road on where and what we should be fixing. And then that coupled with our input and our previous maintenance efforts create what's called a PCI, the Pavement Condition Index. And this, I explained this in depth back when Measure C was out on the streets. It's basically from a 0 to 100, and we know pretty much, give or take, within a few points what that road rates. And then each rating, we have a different rehabilitation method for. So that is how Ben and I and the crew down at the maintenance yard who works the streets come up each year with this list. And as you mentioned, the transparency for SB1. And we do kind of generalize it and we say this is our proposed list. I have one from last year I can share around. The first page of this, just want to pass around and take a look at it, is what we did last year in 2022 with RMRA and Measure C. The great thing about this funding stream with Measure C and RMRA coupled together is that we found that we'd probably be on about a 7 to 8 year round trip where we would be getting back to the streets that we started in the first year of Measure C. We are nearly there. We have a few blocks here and there that it's just simply they're too far gone to chip seal where they need full rehabilitation. Full rehabilitation usually comes through a different arm of funding of SB1, the STIP program, or there's numerous in SB1. I could stand up here for 2 hours and talk about how that flow charts back down through gas taxes, but you'd be bored to tears. But these larger rehabilitation or complete rebuild projects, they need to come through one of those programs because those are into the millions of dollars. The upcoming South Oregon from Finwall's gas station on down to NorCal, that's going to be just a crack over $1 million to replace that road, and that's not an actual full replacement. But it's what we had programmed through the STIP, and that's what we were awarded through the STIP, and that's what we're going to spend, and probably a little bit more of our own money to make that happen. So I get the question a lot is, why haven't you chip sealed my street? We just haven't gotten there yet. And that's my answer. We're working on it. We've been blessed, like I say, with this funding stream to get to it. And when I started here years and years ago, we didn't get this type of program built. So the PCI, I talked it to death a number of years ago. The very first time the truck drove and gave me a score of our city, we were a 42 overall, which is failing. The whole city failing. My goal and my hope at the time was to keep it there and maybe gain a couple of points. We're steadily gaining, and we're actually up 10 points. We're sitting around a 52 right now, and that's without our greatest data from the last blast of the fall of last year. So I anticipate the overall grade of the city streets to be back up again. They fluctuate. You put it down, and it immediately starts failing. Right? You build a road, and it's 100. Within a year, it's a 98, and then it just hits that curve, and it's just gone. So some of these are just too far gone, and we're still working on funding streams to get to them. But we're excited to get back out there. We're going to be back out in everybody's way again. We'll be noticing door hangers and blowing out the cracks and getting the streets swept up and primed and ready for the chip seal stuff. So this is just every year I get to get up and give praise to my guys about the great job they do. And we're going to make as many streets black with the money as we can.
All right. Summer's among us, so that means that project starts. Well, great. Thank you, Mr. Bray. Do I have any questions or comments for Mr. Bray from our audience? We got to clap. We got to clap.
That's good.
You guys do a hell of a job, no matter what anyone says.
Appreciate it.
All right. Now we'll go to council. Any council members have any questions or comments for Mr. Bray regarding? Okay. So if I have no questions, the recommended city council action is the motion to adopt resolution 2223 approving a list of projects for fiscal year 2024 funded by SBI, the Road Repair and Accountability Act. What are the wishes of the council? All right.
Make a motion. So
Councilman Kaye. I have a motion from Councilman Kaye. Councilman Davis, I have a second. I'll do roll call. Councilman Kaye.
aye.
Councilman Davis.
Aye.
Councilman Baker.
Aye.
Councilman Pro Tem McCoy.
Aye.
And I will be an aye for
Aye.
our okay, aye.
Aye.
So aye. So the motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Bray.
I appreciate it. Please slow for the cone zone.
Great job.
Okay, item number 8C is the agenda title 30, negotiate a memorandum and understanding of the Rural Communities Housing Development Corporation for the Home Key Housing Project and Affordable Housing Developer. Authorize the city manager and city attorney to negotiate a memorandum understanding MOU with Rural Communities Housing Development Corporation, RCHD, in consideration of round 3 of the California Department of Housing and Community Development, California HCD grant project application for Home Key as the housing project developer pursuant to the city's request for qualifications. And is this Juliana? Juliana, how are you?
I'm okay.
Good evening.
I'm here. Thank you. All right. So the next two items kind of bleed together because we went through a similar process for requests for qualifications. And so the city council gave direction in October of 2022 at a regular meeting to the city manager to prepare a request for qualification and work with the city's housing consultant Housing Tools to seek out affordable housing developers specifically for a Home Key round 3 application. So the Home Key program is one that the city of state of California, that is where I'm at tonight. The state of California put the home key program together. They adapted it from some other housing programs prior to 2020. And what this does is it takes a existing motel hotel property and converts it into low income housing as part of the curriculum of care for those who are experiencing chronic homelessness and working through those projects. And so part of the housing element identified a vacant housing or a vacant site analysis, as well as putting together an analysis of the various hotel motels that we have within the city. We determined there were 2 eligible sites based off of the property owner interest and the fact that both of those sites already are full of vouchers. So the voucher system that is put through the county provides a voucher for those experiencing homelessness and gives them a place to stay. So we have a number of our hotels, 3, possibly 4 of them, that are full of vouchers at this time. And so the Jefferson Inn was the site that was decided to be the highest priority because of the location to services, as well as the capacity of the site to provide enough home key units for a competitive grant application. So we put a request for proposal out for affordable housing developers. We received 3 proposals. 2 of the 3 proposals did have extensive experience with home key applications and managing sites. And so the idea is that the city would not be the owner or manager of these sites or provide services. Siskiyou County Behavioral Health, Health and Human Services has dedicated themselves to providing the services with whomever we would be partnering with for that home key round 3 application. And so out of the discussion, so it was city staff, myself, Retta, and Jason, and James Coles from Housing Tools, who went through the proposals and determined that RCHDC would have the ability to pivot very quickly and apply for home key round 3 funds. So they are the developer of the Siskiyou Crossroads project. If you're not familiar, we've had a very good working relationship with them throughout the process. They've been very happy with our processes and are very familiar with those. So we feel confident that if we were to be awarded a home key Cycle 3 grant, they would be able to meet the 8 to 9 month turnaround requirement for that home key development. So for those who don't know, they have to go in and put in kitchenettes, kitchens, and basically convert a temporary unit, which is typical for hotels, into a permanent living facility. That will also include converting portions of the Jefferson Inn property into a communal space for service provision, as well as other features that will come out of the community engagement aspect of the application and process. So we're recommending as a staff, as well as Housing Tools is recommending that the City Council award the MOU or authorize the city attorney and the city manager to negotiate and sign the MOU to enter into that. The home key Cycle 3 is open now. It is a very competitive grant. And so this is a time sensitive item that we request is reviewed tonight, whether you move forward with that or not. Thank you.
Okay, so that's your part 1. Do I have any questions, comments from the citizens in the audience? Okay, I will close public comment and I will come to the city council for questions or comments.
Just comment then. if
Okay.
nobody's got any questions.
Councilman Cake.
I just want to make a comment. We've had this discussion on home key, and it's just another piece of the puzzle that we've been working on is Siskiyou County period of trying to get these pieces to put together so we can address homelessness in a more positive way. So this just moves forward on what we've been working on for a very long time. And it's actually starting to come together, all these pieces. And it's going to be a great day when we get these pieces put together so we can actually get some stuff done around here. And this is a positive thing. So I appreciate everybody that's been involved in this and all the work that the city has done, the county has done. I mean, this is just, like I said, it's phenomenal that everything's coming together now and we're starting to see some progress, and soon we'll start seeing some really cool leaps and bounds here. So I'm just thankful that we have a community and people that are willing to sacrifice and put their time in, just like we talked about the Siskiyou Food Bank we just talked about earlier. That's another piece of that. that puzzle that helps out the Siskiyou homelessness and what we're dealing with. So these are all pieces that of organizations and people coming together, making this happen. And it's just a vital, crucial thing that we're doing, getting people together and doing a positive outcome. So thank you.
Thank you, Council Craig, for your comments. Any other questions or comments by our council? Councilman Davis?
I've not worked with an MOU before. So what I understand about it, it's a non-binding agreement. And maybe I should ask this to Mr. Ledbetter. It's a non-binding agreement between this RCHDC, the city of Yreka and Siskiyou County. Is that what this will be? And I'm not sure what I'm asking is because I don't understand it totally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll let Mr. Jared talk about the legal aspects of an MOU, but ultimately the city council had given us direction in the past to move forward or to have Housing Tools do a request for qualifications. And so statements of qualification came back, and ultimately what you're doing here this evening is essentially saying, if we do a home key, you're not authorizing a home key project tonight at all. You're just saying, if it's decided that the city votes to approve a home key, which the staff is working under the guise that you would like one presented to the city council under this current round of funding. If it is to move forward with the city, that ultimately what we are saying is that RCHDC will be our developer with this memorandum of understanding. That's my takeaway, but Juliana, is that how you would engage that question?
Yeah, and I apologize. There was an addition to the MOU as well, because RCHDC is also a qualified affordable housing developer. They have experience with low income workforce housing and senior assisted living as well. And so what this MOU does is it basically is a public acknowledgement of the city wishing to partner with the entity. This one is specific to home key and affordable housing development. It does not commit us to a specific project, and it does not commit us to any financial contribution to the entity itself. It's merely just stating that we have the intent to partner with them on projects in the future. So one of the things that as a city we don't do as a general practice is we don't keep lists of contractors because it's not a fair and equitable practice. So someone can say, why are you recommending Bob down the street for plumbing and not me? And so that applies to all contractors and all types of developers in different industries and fields. And so because we did go through a public, transparent, fair, and equitable process to get qualifications, what this MOU is doing is acknowledging that the city acknowledges that RCHDC is one, qualified to do this development, and we wish to add them to the list of a qualified developer if we wish to move in that direction. So it kind of is allowing us to establish a list of master developers that we can partner with in the future. And that increases our efficiency as a staff. So we don't have to go out for bid every single time we have a potential grant or project coming forward for affordable housing or the home key cycle 3. Did that help?
So this one is for home key, correct?
Yes, this is home key and affordable development.
Okay. Got it.
I apologize for not bringing that up earlier. I'm a little tired.
That's okay.
Okay.
Everybody else knows about it. I just didn't know.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Any other questions or comments from council members? Did you want to comment, Mr. Chair? Nope, everything's okay. All right. So I will do, I guess I will go for the first part here. This is item, I'm tired myself. 9, oh wait, sorry, 9C. Okay, it's the recommended the city council action is the motion to adopt resolution 2320-24, authorizing the city manager to enter in a memorandum of understanding with Rural Communities Housing Development Corporation for California Department of Housing and Community Development Grant Project Application, Home Key as the housing project developer. What are the wishes of the council? Yeah, I asked for public comment. Yeah. Okay. Councilman Kaeg, how does it?
Why do I came so moved, please?
I have a motion from Councilman Kaeg. Second,
This is Councilman McCoy. I'll second that motion.
I have a second from Pro Tem Councilman McCoy. I'll go for roll call. Councilman Kaeg,
Aye.
Councilman Davis,
Aye.
Councilman Baker,
Aye.
Councilman Pro Tem McCoy,
Aye.
and I, Mayor Middleton. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. So this is D. This is the 30 negotiate memorandum of understanding with Danco for affordable housing tax credit project. Authorize city manager, city attorney to negotiate a memorandum understanding MOU with Danco in consideration of development of affordable housing projects utilizing low income housing tax credits or other structured financing opportunities pursuant to the city's request for qualifications.
All right, very similar to the first. Danco was the second highest score on the criteria, and we felt that Danco should be one of the eligible affordable housing developers put forward to the city council, as well as RCHDC. Danco has a more extensive portfolio working with workforce housing, moderate income housing, and low development housing, or sorry, low income development housing. And so we felt that having both options available to us for future development, as well as being available to private property owners who wish to enter into restricted types of housing, for grants, tax credits, and rebates like that having two available would behoove the city moving forward with our goal of constructing 250 workforce housing units in the next 8 years as part of our housing element program, HE 2.2, I believe is what it is. And so we are recommending that we enter into a MOU. It's almost identical to the RCHDC MOU, except it does not include the home key cycle 3. So it would be for other generalized affordable housing projects. And I did forget to mention at the last item, but both of the developers have agreed that they are still interested in entering into this MOU with us.
Great, thank you. Do you have any public comment or questions? All right, I will close public comment. I'll go to city council for questions or concern, comments, questions. Councilman Davis?
Did you do, maybe I will ask Mr. Ledbetter this.
I say the question, then one of them will answer.
Okay.
I don't know what it is about, so they don't know. We don't know who's going to answer. So go ahead and ask the question and we'll decide which one's going to be best.
Well, let's try Mr. Ledbetter. Did you research this Danco company? Who did the research to get them on our list? It's kind of what and what process did you use? I'm kind of interested in that too.
Yeah, so ultimately what you'll hear these acronyms, incessantly in government contracting. And so the one that was utilized as a tool here was called an RFQ, and it was a request for qualifications. And so ultimately that gets advertised in a number of different outlets, and we utilized housing tools. It was a task order as part of their contract, the consultant that we have doing work for us in the city, housing tools. And so they wrote the RFQ, they advertised the RFQ, and then ultimately anybody can basically bid or give us their statement of qualifications to review. And so Danco was one of those companies, along with two other companies. And ultimately, they provide you with the list within the RFQ that they're mandated that we're requesting, which is just basically prior projects, what their capacity looks like. And then we did an interview with myself and Juliana and Housing Tools. We interviewed Danco and RCHDC, but ultimately Danco has a number of projects happening. One of them in Siskiyou County, currently in Mount Shasta for housing. And they have a number of projects within Northern California and in rural kind of communities similar to Yreka, primarily more on the coast of Humboldt and possibly Del Norte County. But ultimately, that is the process on the RFQ. is that ultimately anybody is available if they feel like they meet the qualifications to do the projects that we're looking to partner with. They're allowed to ultimately turn in what they call an SOQ, a statement of qualifications, and then we review those qualifications based off of a grading scheme that is in the RFQ itself. And then ultimately we make a determination through the interview process if we want to put that particular developer on the list and if they still want to do business with us after the interview to be on that list. So hopefully that answers that.
Yes, it did.
Thank you, sir.
The reason for the question, I noticed that their packet was pretty healthy. And in my past life, I dealt with people that gave packets that were full. And generally they were hiding something. And it's just a suspicious thought. And I'm glad you dug in and did the research because I know you wouldn't let something slip by. And thank you for doing that, you and Juliana.
Yeah, and ultimately in the business of these developers, these are some, and for our area, these are some, I would say, heavy hitters, essentially. These are what we would call master developers. They have a proven track record of doing these projects. If you were to go on the Danco website, you will see a litany of projects that they have done for housing, and same with RCHDC. So.
I did.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any other questions from council members? All right. Yeah, it's a long process we have to go through to even vet them. And there's a process that our city attorney has to go through once we reach all that, right? And a big process of vetting and making sure these companies are legit. So it's definitely a long process of investigation and making sure they're going to be qualified to do this project. Okay, great. I will close comments for city council or any questions. The recommend city council action is the motion to adopt resolution 23-25 authorizing the city manager to enter into a memorandum understanding with Danco as an affordable housing project developer. What are the wishes of the council? Councilman McCoy?
So moved. This is Councilman McCoy.
I have a motion by Councilman McCoy. Do I have a second?
I'll
Councilman
second
Cake,
that.
second it.
Councilman Cake, have a second? All right, I have a,
If I may very
oh,
quickly.
okay.
There's- There's just a typo in the
Okay.
resolution, and so I just want to clarify for the record, on page 118 of your packets, there's a table of the income groups and their incomes, and the moderate income should read $33,987 instead of $22,987.
Okay.
It's a minor just typo, but just to bring it to attention and make it transparent, that we'll just switch that
Okay.
so that it reads correctly.
Okay, great. Do you have that? Ms. Hogan? Okay, great. She has that for correction. Okay. So going back, I have a, for the motion, I have a, do I need to go back and read it again or go back? Okay, we're fine. Okay. I have a first from, a motion from Councilman McCoy, second from Councilman Cake. I'll go for roll call. Councilman Cake?
Aye.
Councilman Davis?
Aye.
Councilman Baker?
Aye.
Councilman Pro Tem McCoy?
Aye.
And I, from Mayor Middleton, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Joanna, for all your hard work. All right. This is okay. This is a great step forward for our community. Oh, great. Thank you, everybody, for their hard work. Okay, so this is city manager and staff reports. Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Yreka City Council. This is Jason Ledbetter, the city manager for the city of Yreka. I just have 3 brief things to mention. So we did hold our first comms ad hoc meeting. It was determined within that meeting that Council Member Baker will chair that meeting. And also Mayor Middleton attends that meeting as well. It was also decided that we will have a total of 12 meetings. They will happen monthly. We're still working on solidifying the June meeting based off of graduation that's going to happen across the street. And ultimately, what we would like to see is a communication policy that is brought to City Council for consideration. And so we will continue to work with Mayor Middleton and Council Member Baker on organizing future dates, and we will be advertising that on the agenda website and a number of other outlets. On 5/25 at the community center, the final visioning workshop for the general plan will take place. And so this will be the last opportunity to give input for the future visioning statement for the city. And ultimately what will then be the backbone of kind of the strategic plan statement that we will lead in with that visioning statement to city council to actually do the strategic planning that we have been discussing. And so it would be wonderful to get the word out. I know our planning director has gotten the word out. A number of city council members have also gotten the word out. And so we're just looking for as much participation as possible. 5/25, I believe that is at 5:30. Is that correct, Ms. Hogan? On the visioning at the 5:30. And we'll have food available. We're going to have
Do anything to
tacos.
get people there.
Absolutely. So come eat some tacos and tell us what you want the future to look like. And then ultimately, as part of Mr. Jared's contract, there is a free ethics training for the city council. And so we would love to have that happen on the second Tuesday of 6/13, so June 13th at 5:30 p.m. It's basically a 2-hour training, so we will send out a calendar invite. And ultimately, if that does not work out for you, just please let me know and we can work on rescheduling. But Mr. Jared happens to be in the area that day on other business. And so it's a great opportunity to maximize his travel time. And basically, he would be here for free for us. So look forward to that email invite in your inboxes. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Ledbetter.
What was the date again? I apologize.
6/13.
Yeah, it's going to be June 13th. So we're just trying to stay consistent on Tuesdays at 5:30 essentially.
That's an open meeting as well.
Yes. Anybody in the public wants to come in and sit on it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go to the mayor, council members, reports, statements, and or requests. This is AB 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, members of the council, maybe brief announcements, reports, or request staff to report to council on any matter or subsequent meeting. Okay, so who am I gonna go to? Let's see here. I'll change it up. Do you want to go to you first, Ms. Baker?
Sure.
All right,
I'll open it up.
change it up a
So-
little bit.
Change it up a little bit.
Wild, man.
I know, wild.
So since our last meeting, I have, like many of you, been very busy. I have met and talked with several Yreka residents just regarding a number of issues and concerns that they have. But one of those issues resulted in a field trip to the T-ball field with City Manager Ledbetter so that we could go out and look at all of the goat heads that were affecting the baseball games. And I appreciate Mr. Ledbetter's time, and we came up with an action plan to eliminate those invasive weeds. I met with and referred one person to the Economic Development Council for business startup consultation. Attended a softball tournament at Yreka, the Minor Street Park. I was a very enthusiastic fan, and it brought me back to the good old days of when I was a kid and there was softball games at Minor Street Park Monday through Friday, and the entire community was there. So that was fun. I attended one of the sessions that Juliana hosted from the American Planning Association's, their online conference, and found that really beneficial and helpful. I attended the comms ad hoc committee meeting, and Mr. Ledbetter summarized that meeting really well, so I won't repeat it. I attended a C2C meeting in which we chose a website developer so that the agency is going to be having a website up and running very soon. And Yreka is going to be hosting the June 27th meeting with the location to be arranged. And since it's being held here in Yreka, I would invite you all to attend. So I also attended the Siskiyou Republicans, the Siskiyou Conservative Republicans meeting that was held last week. And I also met with the operations manager of a faith-based organization that provides services to the unhoused, and learned a lot about their program. So Councilmember Kaag, I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you about that organization and the services that they're offering. I've been busy inviting everybody I know and people I don't know to the May 25th visioning workshop, as well as inviting people to attend our city council meetings. And I just want to take just a brief minute to thank the city staff for their willingness to always take time to answer my questions. And I just appreciate Mr. Ledbetter, Ms. Lucchese, Ms. Hogan, Mr. Bray at times, and Ms. Aldridge. You guys always take the time to answer my questions, and it's making this job just a little bit easier. So I just want to give you guys a shout out tonight because I do appreciate you.
We accept that. Thank you very much.
And the last thing that I have, and I didn't mention this earlier because I didn't feel like it was an appropriate thing to bring up when we were discussing the holiday parade, because I really am so thankful to the Elks Hall, the Elks Lodge rather, for putting on this parade. But something that came up for me, and I don't know, maybe it's come up for you guys as well, is that I believe that we need as a city, as a council, to come up with a process to select organizations to put on these events for us, so that if there are other organizations that would like to put on one of our city sponsored events, that we have a process in place or recommendations on who to go to. And so I would like to ask Mr. Ledbetter if in your spare time, you could maybe come up with some recommendations for a process or a recommendation of where we would like this to eventually land. I'm not intimately familiar with the history of the council's events. And I know that last year was very unique in that there was nobody to put on the events. But
Ball was dropped, yeah.
yeah, I would just like us to be able to come up with a process to select an event holder. So, and I would just also like to announce that my availability now for city business is wide open, since I was fired as daycare for my 9-month-old granddaughter. Today was my first day. Little Harper Grace went to professional daycare. And this Nana's heart is broken. So I've been a little quiet tonight. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Speaker. And I think just real quick on to piggyback, the ball was dropped on us last year and we're scrambling. And I know we might, it's been a long year, whatever, a couple of years, I can't remember actually how long I've been sitting here. Didn't we make several calls and were rejected by several people? I know Dwayne made several calls and Mr. Ledbetter did, and they're like, oh, no way, no way, no way, no way, no way. And so, and then I think Socioeconomic, they declined that event, but wanted to do the Night of Lights. But yeah, going forward, if we ever get a chamber back, I don't know, they might be interested, or if we do get that back, hopefully, but that's a good idea. But the Elks have stepped up, so we think the Elks, but yeah, we were scrambling, and I know a lot of phone calls were made, a lot, and got no from everybody. And then Debbie, I think she had the bright idea that we would try to do it. And I'm like, I don't think so. Dwayne actually, but he was experienced one, not this kid. So thank you. Okay, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended our Fire Safe Council meeting last month, and they're getting ready to start putting up fire breaks in the area. And that was pretty fun to talk about that. I too went to the Conservative Republican event that Ms. Baker talked about. And one of the things that I think that you talked about was getting people to do the events, like you talked about, Mr. Mayor, you talked about scrambling to find someone to do this event or that event. I have found that in the past, if you happen to have one person that is doing it well, you don't break the mold, you kind of continue on with them until, your relationship is terminated. And I know in some of the organizations that I'm in, we continue, even though there are other good sources, we continue on with the person that has been doing it and helping us along the way. So like if somebody else wants to do the holiday parade, and I can't imagine anybody wanting to do it even else. It's a big job.
Mhm.
If they else want to do it, I think we should continue with that. And, like the Hot Night of Lights, the folks that are doing that did a great job last year, and I'm sure we'll do a great job again this year. I think we should continue with the folks that are doing it as much as possible. That's
Okay.
all I have.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we're glad they came back. They actually came back to us. I don't think we went out and asked them, did we? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe
reach out to
they understood my desire to have that solidified.
It was pretty firm
early
last
on.
year
Yeah.
that you're coming back. Okay.
Well, and ultimately, and just to touch on this, so what separates the EDC or really Discover Siskiyou from say the Elks is that ultimately Discover Siskiyou is taking T-bid money, is my understanding, and basically we're giving $10,000 on an event. They're putting $20,000 into the event. So it'd be it would be a major change if we were to transition those two events that they're currently doing. But on the holiday parade, ultimately, I can investigate. It also may behoove the city council to make statements. I know that statements were made in the past, but probably a policy on this, because ultimately it was the last city council's impression that these are city events, but I don't really have a policy somewhere stating that these are technically city events. And so ultimately, if you want to make that statement and then create some pathway on how the holiday parade will be ran in the future, I will look into that.
All right. Okay, thank you. Councilman Kay.
Well, we had our COC meeting, our COC PIT, or excuse me, COC meeting. I did give a little bit of a presentation on that, on the numbers from our point in time count. We were supposed to have our point in time meeting today, and unfortunately it got canceled due to posting problems that the Shasta County did not post properly. But anyways, I do have some numbers. I'm just going to thumb through just real quickly on these numbers because I am going to give a presentation here soon, and I'll have some of these on there also, some of these numbers. But our numbers for Siskiyou County was 507. That is sheltered and unsheltered homeless individuals. We'll go on to details here. The biggest number of age bracket that is 35 to 44. That's pretty much on the 7 counties of the North State. Those numbers reflect pretty much everybody. So in other words, where our biggest number 35 to 44 was the same with Shasta County, was the same with Plumas, Modoc, all those other counties too. That's the biggest age, that's the age bracket that was most homelessness has occurred. And it gets broke down further, but we'll go on to race. Well, white was the number one race, but you'd be surprised on American Indian or indigenous. There was a question raised on that. Just depends on how you identify yourself. A lot of it comes down to, but there was quite a few individuals in that. So we're going to be addressing that also in the future. number one problem when you're on health conditions for homelessness was mental illness. That goes across the 7 counties of the North State also. Mental illness is probably the number one health condition. There's also substance abuse and all that too that goes along with it. But number one was that. Here, and you believe it or not, in Siskiyou County, the number one primary reason for homelessness was fire. That was the most numbers that reflected on that was fire. Unsheltered locations, outdoor encampments was obviously number one, outdoor encampments for unsheltered. But a lot of people don't realize that number two, when it follows just like right behind that, is vehicle or boat or RV. In this case, vehicle or RV in Siskiyou County. Not necessarily do you see a boat too often sitting alongside the road or in a lake that somebody's homeless in, but a vehicle or RV, and that is number two in Siskiyou County. Here's another one that's number that you would be shocked over. How long have you, the number one thing, homelessness is how long have you been here residency in Siskiyou County? Over 10 years was number one, over 10 years. And that was big reflection on us. Length of time being homeless, the number one was 3 or more years of being homeless. Probably not going to go into the other ones now. The rest of them I'll share with later on that. But most of these numbers reflect, like I said, with the 7 counties of the North State. When you're talking age brackets, you're talking a lot of these things, mental illness, some of the other things, it reflects on the whole 7 counties of the North State. So it's pretty much across the board on a lot of these situations. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask, not tonight, but in the future. Like I said, I will be giving a presentation here shortly. Next meeting, we had to change things around a little bit because I had to get some prior authorizations on some of the information I'm giving out. In fact, we're going to be talking to our new attorney on some of this information that he presented to me, which is very good. I thank you for that. But we'll be having a whole presentation on homelessness, why we're where we're at with homelessness, and what we're doing as a county and Yreka, and hopefully where we're going to be moving forward in a positive way as a county and Yreka. So I'm not going to go into any more detail. I'm just going to say that's it for me tonight.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Kate. Councilman Pro Tem McQuay. Just, yeah. You're done? No? Okay. Yep. Okay. For me, let's see, I'm going to do a couple things and we'll wrap it up here. Is I went for my mayor right along with the YPD last Friday night. It was eventful. It was very eventful. I am going to go back because my time was spent in the car hunkered down with knowing how to release the rifle because a suspect did get out on the freeway and jumped into the creek somewhere. So I was locked in the Pacific Power lot and watched YouTube and was showed how to release the rifle in case I was in danger, and freaked me out a little bit. But yeah, I could have, yeah, it was fun. But just every, we say this every time when I'm up here, and I know most of our community members see this, is we're very lucky and fortunate to have the officer we have. The officer I rode with, kind, professional, that he encountered, and also Sheriff's Department and other agencies that we backed up and other fellow officers. Just nothing but the kindness, level of professionalism was amazing to me. I know this, but get out and see it again was great. But I'm gonna go back because my time was kind of spent in the parked car for a little while, but that's okay. It was exciting, really exciting. So I'll go back here shortly. And let's see, today I presented a plaque and letter of recognition to the Clark Enterprises at Taco Bell for 40 years of service. They built the first their Taco Bell there in the same location. It's different, of course. The old one went away and they built the new one with today's standards. But 40 years ago, they opened up, and they have several of them and several other franchises throughout Northern California, Southern Oregon, Nevada. And so they're a great, and they have their corporate office remaining here in Yreka because they are locals. And they gave back proceeds today to the local football team, Yreka Miners, and they are just the epitome of great community business people because they do give a lot to many organizations, functions, community events. They give back to our community in a very selfless manner. So I did present them with a plaque and to Mr. DeClerc and Mrs. DeClerc today. And they were very busy out there. And so we want to thank them again. I want to thank them for their time and their contributions here in the city of Yreka. That they spoke on the ad hoc meeting we have for the communications. I put Councilman Baker in charge of leading it. So she's going to do a good job and a lot of great ideas, and to hope to see more people back for that meeting. We only had about, I think, 2 are here. One other person was here, so we hope to have more people back to that meeting, and hope a lot of people attend the 25th. And with that, I'm going to adjourn tonight's meeting and thank everybody for coming, and have a good evening. Be safe.